So as it stands right now, there's still much to be learned about it, but the story started breaking about less than a month ago, right after the time where Al Haymon unveiled Premier Boxing Champions PBC on NBC. We're starting to find out now, or we started to find out about a week or so after it was unveiled in a special invite only media conference, is that PBC is not just going to be on NBC. It's going to be PBC on NBC, PBC on Spike TV, PBC on CBS, PBC on ESPN2, PBC on, we said Spike TV already, BET. So you got PBC on NBC, PBC on CBS, PBC on Spike TV, PBC on NBC Sports, PBC on CBS Sports, PBC on BET, and I'm sure an ESPN, and I'm sure that's not the end. Now, there's so many questions I'm sure everyone is asking right now, especially if you're not from the United States. I'm going to tell you this, that with the large stable of fighters that Al Haymon has, I thought to myself, well, the 20 or so dates that he has with NBC still wouldn't be enough. But now you see he's across multiple platforms. So for example, ESPN, that's ABC, which is Disney. You got CBS Showtime, and then you got NBC. So this is a guy who's putting his fights on all these different networks. And then when you got Spike TV, I forgot who they're owned by. But what you're seeing is you're starting to see a trend of him basically I'm not going to say monopolizing. He's not monopolizing the sport. But when it comes to him having the fighters to throw around and the money to throw around, and it's rumored to be around $200 million that he has to throw around to do all these ventures, you have to think that the networks are going to take him very seriously and put him number one over who else comes first. So let's start with the first bit of news that you probably don't know, is that ESPN Friday Night Fights, as you know it right now, being that stepping stone for prospects to get up to the next level. Guys like Adrien Broner, guys like Paul Williams, Erislandy Lara, you know, and the list goes on, Deontay Wilder, maybe no more. What it will be is that ESPN2, remember when ESPN did Bermain Saverne versus Chris Arreola 2? It did very good numbers-wise, and ESPN basically producing Friday night fight shows that get generally good ratings. Well, they're thinking about stepping it up a little bit and getting themselves involved in bidding for fights. So, for example, if a situation that was going on not too long ago, right now it's February 17th, 2015, you had Showtime and HBO bidding for who was going to show Lucas Matthysse versus Ruslan Provodnikov, to whereas we know HBO is going to be showing that fight now. So now you're going to have ESPN throwing their name into the hat. It's like, okay, well, if, you know, and I'm just throwing numbers out there, if Showtime offers $300,000 for the fight, HBO offers $500,000, and then you'll have ESPN, they may offer, you know, something like $400,000, meaning they're throwing their hat there, they're throwing their name in the hat to broadcast the fight. So what you like, I guess now is good to start where, like, with what does this mean? This means that all those fighters that he has, if you've been wondering why they haven't been fighting 2-3 times a year, guys like Keith Thurman, Adrien Broner, Victor Ortiz, Marcos Maidana, Robert Guerrero. Now he has the platforms. And also, so for example, you can have a Robert Guerrero on an NBC card, primetime card. You can have a Robert Guerrero on a CBS primetime card. And I'm just using this one name to let you know the scale that it is. Now, when it comes to something like Spike TV, I would think that you would use that for the lower, not the lower level guys, but guys that are below the level of a Danny Garcia, a Keith Thurman, a Robert Guerrero, a Marcos Maidana. To whereas on Spike TV, you got Andre Berto versus Jose Cito Lopez. But for the boxing community, I guess what I'm trying to tell you is, it's all about what you want. Al Haymon may be bad for the sport as far as fans think he won't provide us with the fights that we want to see. And we have a history of seeing that from him. But I remember, you know, it's been about 2 years now where I've been asking myself, well, he's got all these fighters. And remember, he just really started signing up a lot of fighters within the last year and a half. So he's got all these fighters. Like, what is he going to do with them? And I thought to myself, the man's got to have some type of plan. Because if he has a meeting and has all his fighters in one room right now today, and I was saying this months ago, is that he has to look around, and the fighters have to look around and be like, yo, like, it's got to be some type of plan. It's got to be something major going down. So now that we're starting to see what his plan actually is, we have to think and ask ourselves, is it good for the sport of boxing? The only way it's not good for the sport of boxing is if it turns to the WWE and it's continued to be allowed for certain fighters not to fight certain fighters. Now, I'm thinking to myself, maybe since he's getting all these network deals worked out, maybe he finally will, go back to HBO, especially after Mayweather Pacquiao, and start working with them again as far as, putting on some fights, Haymon fighters versus, top-ranked fighters on HBO, because that's the only issue, honestly, that we have is when it comes to guys like Gennady Golovkin, when you got a guy like Peter Quillen, who's a Haymon boxer, but not tied to any networks, and you wondering why he can't go over to HBO, and fight a Golovkin, it's stuff like that where I think, like, is he really, like good, like for the sport? But then I look at, well, how does he benefit me? How does he benefit people who work on YouTube? If you look at the amount of boxing content that PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, as a brand is going to provide, then you have to think, for me, that's more videos, that's more work. That's more fights, that's more coverage, that's more interviews and such and such. So as far as us on YouTube, yes, we have to embrace it. Not even us on YouTube. We have to embrace it, because if you look at the state of boxing, right now, as it is right now, boxing needs Mayweather and Pacquiao, even if they don't fight each other, Mayweather and Pacquiao. And don't go twisting my words up. I just said that as a statement, just to make an example. But what I'm saying is, we have to be prepared, or boxing has to be prepared for when Mayweather and Pacquiao are not around. And guess what? If you really look at it, Haymon is doing that by providing his fighters to national television, global television in some cases. So when you look at what he's trying to do as awareness, as far as awareness is concerned, you're going to have fans that are watching these fights, pick and choosing who they want to follow more than the other. This is how a guy like Adrien Broner can turn into a superstar. This is how a guy like Danny Garcia can turn into a pay-per-view fighter. So when you look at Amir Khan, for example, Amir Khan coming up over in the UK. From the Olympics to, his amateur fights, they were broadcast on national television over there. And that's how he gained a lot of acclaim. So when you look at over here, imagine, and I keep using the same name, Adrien Broner is a very likable guy. So you put him on national television, yeah, he'll clown around every now and then, but he's got a lot of charisma. Whether you love him or whether you hate him, like, people don't understand that. When you got a guy like Floyd Mayweather or Adrien Broner, people will watch them to see them lose. And then you got fans that actually enjoy him. To me, what Adrien Broner brings to the sport of boxing is what's needed more, more personality for boxers to be able to sell themselves and for boxers to be able to get the bigger paydays. But now when you're adding to the equation of, it was a plan I came up with about a few years ago when I said, you know what? If I just continuously keep doing boxing videos on every single major fight, or as many as I can, then eventually, people are going to have no choice but to click on my video because they're going to get sick and tired of seeing me and not knowing who I am. So in a way, it's kind of like spamming a little bit, but it's not spamming. I'm trying to figure out which way to put it into words. So to relate it to what Haymon is doing, what if you turn to BET, it's boxing on? You turn to CBS, boxing. I'm not saying it's all going to be on the same night, but NBC boxing on. So he's putting his content out there and his fighters out there to the point where eventually, like if the plan works and goes the way I see it going, you're not going to have no choice but to watch the fight, because you're going to see, let me see what this is, and then you're going to be hearing about it, and then it's going to be, it's going to be more globally. It's going to be more globally recognized, and especially on a national scale here in the States. It's going to have, it's going to mean a lot more. Like, for example, if you put like, I'm not saying it would happen, but because of the timing, but if you put like Thursday night boxing on, before Scandal or something, to start like at 7 o'clock and, something like that, but I'm not saying it would happen, but I'm just throwing out ideas for you. So once again, if you look at the platforms that they have, look at them and open your mind and think deeply about what I'm saying. NBC. And that's all the channels under it. The NBC Sports, CBS, all the channels under it. The cable subscription service for CBS is Showtime. You got Spike TV, you got BET, ESPN, and God knows what else. Remember, I don't know if he still got ties to Fox Sports or not, but remember those Golden Boy live cards, Haymon fighters were fighting on those. So it's just crazy if you look at the plan, you know, like as a whole, and you think to yourself, the only thing you can really be mad at him about is not making the fights that we want to see. And you got to hope that now that he's got this continuous, schedule of fights that he has to put out. Remember, he has to put out because he has investors, and also he has, like, this is his, you know, this is basically his dream if you think about it. So now he has to perform, or his fighters have to perform. So he has to start putting on good fights. Now, you know, he has to fight. He has enough fighters for like to survive for when guys like Danny Garcia, you know, or Adrien Broner or people like that take another defeat or take their first defeat. But, you know, like I said, once again, I'm T-Street Controversy, T-Street Controversy Live, RealCombatMedia.com. Every single PBC on NBC, every single PBC on CBS, every single PBC on Spike TV, PBC on ESPN2, PBC on BETP, Premier Boxing Champions on Black Entertainment Television. I will be covering it all. And if you don't know, you know Al Haymon is basically the most successful music promoter of all time. Get up on your research. So, you know, this is, I guess, this is a bigger deal than, I guess, you know, I can really put into words. So all I say is this: listen, do some research and just understand that you're going to have so much boxing at one point in time in this career, to the point where we're going to find out who the real boxing fans are, because you're going to have to watch all these fighters scattered across all these different networks, and your DVR is going to be working overtime. I'm T-Street Controversy on Twitter, T-Street Controversy on Facebook, T-Street Controversy on Instagram, and I cover every single major fight live. That's the bread and butter. Please subscribe.